Hi. So this exercise is a double linked list, and we'll be doing test-driven development in Node. This will be a little bit different to some of the other exercises where we start greenfield with nothing. In this case, we're going to start with an existing code base that's already been developed. That's a bit more real-world like, and we have to add. We actually have a test, and we'll have to add some code to make that test pass. We'll be using some fun array functions, splice, find, and map. And we'll have classes and methods to organize our code, and we'll use Mocha and Chai to drive our tests and expectations, and we'll be using arrow functions. Alright, so let's get started. Thank you. Okay, let's get set up. I'm going to share this setup between all of my exercises to make it a little bit easier. So let's get going. So I'm going to create a directory to work in, app, and you see our Explorer here is keeping up with us. This is VS Code. I'm going to go into that directory, and I'm going to use Node, so I'm going to create my package.json file. There it is. It's a simple template. And let's start installing the tools I'm going to use. And they're going to be dev tools. So first of all, for testing, Mocha and Chai, Chai for expectations. And then ESLint and ESLint plugin Mocha, because I'm using Mocha. Alright, and then one final thing while I'm at it, I might as well install NYC for code coverage while I'm here. It's a successor to Istanbul. Okay, good, so that's the three of those. You can see our package.json file. It's got our dependencies. It doesn't do anything with our test command yet, so I need to fix that. But first of all, let's copy in this ESLint, our C YAML file that I've got. And you can see here, there's a ton of rules. I love having loads of rules to guide me, in errors and warnings. So it's very, very handy. I love that. Alright, that's the ESLint YAML file. And here's our scripts where we want to actually put in running tests. So let's put in the actual command we're going to use, which is going to be Mocha. We'll just use the top level, anything that's called star.test.js. Okay, so we should actually be pretty close to be able to run tests. Let's try to do it with npm test. And no files found, but no actual error. So let's go ahead. We'll use index because that's what the auto generation of the package.json used. And we'll put in our index.test.js, which is actually the file it'll recognize. Alright, so it's green. No test, but the framework's there. Alright, so let's put in the other pieces now. Let's put in the linting, which is going to be our pre-test, so it's going to run before the tests can even run, and that's going to be ESLint everything. And while we're here, let's put in our code coverage, and that's going to be the NYC npm run test. So that's close to all of the pieces we need. We can run our tests again to make sure that they work, and we can run code coverage to make sure that that works. And you can see that we didn't have any files again, but this is the expected output that we've got. So we've got our linting, our testing, our code coverage, our basic files set up here, NYC output for code coverage output. So we're pretty much ready to go. So now we can go ahead and create the actual app. Okay, let's get started. Alright, so here we have this existing code. And you can see here's our tests here, spec. Looking a bit more like a real spec here with a bunch of tests. And here's a class that we have, city, with some simple attributes. And here's our code here. And as you can see, we have a method that's been added without any code in it. It just tells us what the parameters are. This has been turned over to us because the tests have been written. And as you can see, if we run this, they all pass except for the last two. And we've been given a task, we're imagining that here, of making these last two tests. Say the programmer, our fellow programmer, wrote the test first, but is out today and is unable to finish the job. So we'll go with with the specification we've been given. Now let's take a look at what we've got here. Okay, expectations, we've got our two classes. We set up our cities. We've got some local variables here. And then for each scenario, we set up our 5 cities: London, Paris, Frankfurt, Berlin, Moscow. And then for each city, like London, we set our next to be the other city. And so for each pair now we do previous and next, city 1, city 3. So for Paris, we say previous is London, and then for Paris, we say next is Frankfurt. So we do that for city 2, 3, 4, and then finally for city 5, it just has a previous. So we set that. Alright, so we've got our 5 cities, and we make that an array, we put that in tour. Now we have a whole bunch of tests to make sure that everything's working correctly. We can look at the next city, we can look at we look at our 5 cities here using map, make sure the names of those come out, which is nice. We can check things like the name and population, the next city's name, the previous city's name, so make sure all the next and previouses work correctly. And you've got a detailed one here, the population of the city before Berlin, so really stretch that out. And then we have our 2 test cases at the end here, and these are the 2 that are failing, like adding a new city or inserting a city into the array. So this new city is Dover, so we would have 6 cities, and in the first case of appending to the array, 5 is the 6th element, we would end up with Dover, whereas in the other case it would get inserted. So that's the difference here. It's where this actually gets inserted, even though the pointers are correct. It's whether we actually physically insert it into the array. So then we check all the next and previouses in these 2 tests that we've already got set up. You can see the difference between appending and inserting here at the end. Alright, so let's go ahead and let's take this method here and get these parameters in. Okay, so I've got 3 things here. It's a little strange here. We're already starting off with parameters that haven't been used, which is why they're grayed out. Because our approach here is a little different, but I'm sure we can adapt to that. So let's think what we're going to do. We've got this after city name. The city we're going to add this new city after. So let me call that current city. Maybe that's a better name. And we want to find that city. So let's make it a const because it's going to be fixed. So we're going to say this.cities.find, and we can just make this a nice little arrow function here, one-liner. We can say, well, there's a couple of ways we can do this. We could say the city name is equal to what was passed in, the after city name. Actually, that's the way I think we'll do this. We should do this. We'll base it on name, because we know name's being passed in. Just a string. Alright. So that's city we're adding it after, and the other thing I know we're going to want to keep track of is the current next city for that previous city. So based on what we just found, let's see the current city based on that match. Now we can actually do this. We don't even need to do we don't need to do by name here. We can just do. We can either do by name like that, but we can actually directly just reference it because we're using a reference here, and that's better than a string. Okay, so we get the next city, and we keep track of that. And finally, well, the next step is we're going to add our new city in that we've been asked to add in. So that's got a name, which is new city name. Okay, so we go ahead and create that, and let's see what happens right now if we run. Well, yeah, see that's the problem with not using some of these. It gets a little bit tricky. We could comment these out. Could do that. Try to get rid of these error messages. Ended end. Well, we'd have to get rid of that. Okay, I don't think I'm going to go that route. Let me back out and keep these. let's think what we want to actually do here. Maybe we can just take a step forward at this point, because we want to say that's not wasn't being used. So if that's passed, which is the first of the two test cases below, we can just push this city onto the end of the array, push our new city we just created. So this is this append. So we'll just only run this test case, and we're still getting some of our linting errors here. This is not being used. So let's think what we do here to fix this. Hold on a second. Okay. Because the reason we save that is because we need to do something about it. We need to actually update the other nodes. So let's find that what was the current next city, and let's update its next, its pointer basically, to this new city. And we want to also update the current, let's get this right, the current city's next becomes the new city because we've added it, and then what was the next city previously, language here, becomes the new city. Right. See the sign of value not used. Let's see. What we want to do here is make sure it was saved. Okay. Give me equals right. Alright, cities is not defined. And we've got some lint warnings as well. Let's get rid of this. Let's look at this first example here. The append. And cities are not defined. And that's at 77. And actually at 10. Oh, okay. This was supposed to be this.cities. Whoops. Okay. Can't access new city for initialization. Okay, that was a little bit odd too. So, line 10. There's a space missing. Oof. Alright, city is not defined. Let's see if let's take a look here. So we do include it, line 3. Here's our city class up here. And let's see. Oh, there it is. It's commented out. It was already there for us, but it was commented out because we actually need to use it inside this class because it's composed. Alright, so now it's giving us an error that's really a lot more interesting. It's saying that the London Dover cities aren't right at 82. So let's take a look here. So we've got our 6 cities, and actually we got these bits right, and it wasn't until we got down here, 82, the previous name didn't get set. Okay, so let's take a look at this. Why didn't previous get set? We got a bug. So let's set the previous to be that. And the next. So set the 2 pointers basically for this new city to be the 2 other. No, that's not it. Something else going on here. Yeah. So if you look over here, you notice these are both next. this one should be previous. So let's try that. Okay, that was the problem. Alright, so it's looking pretty good here. We can now go back to running all of our examples, including the insert one, which is probably going to be failing. So yeah, so that one fails. So we got 13 out of 14. So now we will look at that final one. So this was this flag here, appended end. So if we don't have it set, which in the second example, line 87, we don't, it's false. Now I have to admit, I looked this up ahead of time because it's pretty tricky. We're going to use splice. We're going to take this array and we are going to, this will insert our element by using index of as part of our splice to get the position. We want to go after that position. We put a 0 for this kind of splice, and there's our new element. So that's pretty tricky. I don't want to step through all of the steps to do that. This dot cities. Let's see, where do I have? Yep, there you go. This dot cities. A lot of this dot cities. 14 passing, nice. Alright, so why don't I actually set, I'm always referring to this dot city, so it seems to dry it up. Might want to try and just have this one reference here to do that. So let's make this. So I could do it globally, but I like to kind of step through and pay attention to what I'm doing. Make sure I don't make any mistakes. Okay. And that one. Okay. Alright. Save that. And this is quite a long method, but I think it's all there. Satisfying our two tests. Let's see. What could we refactor is always the question now. You know, I think our setup's pretty good. Let's try taking out our coverage. Oh, we've actually got lines 4 and 7. So our parameters there, those default parameters, we're not testing both of the cases of passing and not passing, and that's why the branch coverage does that. Now, I'm going to cheat a little bit here, at least with the first one, because I do want to finish the exercise. So, let's see, let's check it out here in the lines 4 and 7, but let's check out our tests for a tour. Well, it's actually tour and add city. Let's do tour first. So let's open this up a little bit. We can fix this by literally just doing tour 2 for right now. I would do this with production code, in other words, real code that you use in your job, but for right now, just using it like this in the test, we'll fix that first one. The second one, let's do a little better job on this. So at line 7, the appended end equals true. It isn't being fully tested. So let's take a look at the tests that are actually having that pass to. So if we open up this a little bit here, we can see false for the second one and true for the. So we don't actually need a default. We can actually get rid of the default. Simplify always if we can, and that will give us 100%, which is pretty nice. So our linting works, our testing works, our coverage is 100%, so that's really nice. And now, is there anything else we can refactor is our question now. And let's see. So this method's kind of big. This looks clunky here, and the reason it looks clunky is because we're actually just repeating something we already did. we did it up top at line 9 and 10. We already got these cities, so to find them again using them was actually repeating what we'd already had. See, we just repeated it here from what was passed in. So we can get rid of those two lines to do the finds over again and use what we've got and set those next and previous, and they all pass. So that's really nice. So I wonder if there's anything else we can do. I think that's about it. If we run coverage, we can see we're at 100% there with the coverage. So I think we're good to go.